Finance and Investment Committee meeting. And the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes from February the 8th. And I'm going to call on our Vice Chairman, Trey Gooch, for that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have reviewed the minutes and find everything to be in order. My motion is to approve them as presented.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is public comments. No one has signed up for them, so we'll move on to item 3, our investment reports. Mr. Beatty.
Mr. Chairman. I'm Ted Beatty, Rutherford County Trustee. Reports are kind of the same. Interest rates are exactly where they were a month ago, and collections were good on our taxes that ended up on last Thursday, on the 29th, but rates are staying the same, and the Fed, the market keeps thinking that rates are going to drop, and the Fed keeps saying probably not as fast and as soon as you think, so staying short term has really offered us much better returns than the longer term, and so we're just watching and holding. That's my report, sir.
Have a motion to approve. Second. 2 seconds. Any discussion? Hear none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is our fund condition report. We'll call on Michael Smith, our Finance Director.
Good evening. I want to piggyback on what our trustee said. Our tax collections have been good. As of February, we have collected almost 91% of the tax roll. And as you can see on the revenue report, that is about a little over 2% better than where we were last year. So those things are right on track. Sales tax for education is still holding strong. For the year, we're up about 3%. However, county side of sales tax is down 1.74%. So we're still monitoring that to make sure that we're where we need to be. And then the other thing I want to point out is you'll notice on the general fund revenue, we have a very healthy collection percentage, but a lot of that is due to investment income. That category is up over 190%. So as compared to budget, but we anticipated that with interest rates where they were as compared to last year. And then also you'll notice our cash balances are up this month due to property tax collections. And that's my report.
Any questions for the director? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Harris.
Michael, with the impending budget coming up, do you foresee that our revenues will stay steady, or that we would possibly, with the interest rates starting to do a downward trend, that we would probably come in with our revenues less?
So right now our revenue is holding steady. Really the only thing that would impact us with rates would be our investment income, and we budgeted that low conservatively on purpose, knowing that rates would not stay that high forever. I think to compound on that question you asked, I think the one thing that's the unknown out there is going to be our sales ratio or equalization ratio on property tax on personal property. We have not gotten that rate yet, so that would be of a larger concern to me, what that ratio is versus what the Fed interest rate would do.
Any other comments?
Quick question. Could you explain what you just said, just because I'll probably get a question about it otherwise, and kind of what's the exposure there in terms of how much risk is there?
So this year we'll get us, some people call it an equalization ratio, is kind of what I'll call it. I think some people call it a sales ratio. So we will receive that this year, and what that's going to do is that's on personal property. And so while personal property does not make up the bulk of our assessment value, it is a large dollar amount. And so in years past, the growth of assessment value, the growth of property values in this county have mitigated the effect of the equalization or sales ratio. And so that's always a concern for us. We do budget conservatively with anticipation of that. But that unknown out there, if that equalization ratio is 10% or 20%, I just have no idea what that would be. That's going to affect our personal property, and then also subsequently is going to affect our pilot agreements that include personal property. And so hopefully our growth in the county can offset that equalization ratio for personal property.
Further discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Irvin moved, second by Commissioner Piercy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is risk management financial report. We'll call on Mr. Eagle.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ed Elam, Insurance and Risk Management Director. Your 264 fund for the calendar year, month of February, revenue was $1,572,889. Expenses, $1,569,308. Revenue less expenses, $3,581, a positive number. Your total for the calendar year, $3,315,068 in revenue. Expenses, $3,161,894. Revenue less expenditures, a positive $153,174. And for the fiscal year, your revenue for the entire fiscal year is $14,635,996. Expenses, $14,500,533, with a positive revenue less expenditures, $135,463. On the 266 fund, for the month of February, you have $0 for workers' comp. For OJI, you have $79,887.31. Year-to-date total, workers' comp, $5,916.37. OJI, $377,011.49. And the total for the fiscal year is $382,927.86. And for the county attorney's expenses for the month of February, you have $84,352.10. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions on the report?
That's 84,000 is a pretty good sized number. Can you break that down?
I knew
break it down.
I knew you would ask.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So what I broke it down, there's $46,906 to do with the most recent trial that the county was successful on. I think you've heard the county attorney, Mr. Christensen, refer to that we got a favorable ruling on that. And so of the 84,000, 46 of it is that. The bulk of it, which would get you down to a remainder of about 37,000, which is about average for what we normally see.
Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion. A motion to approve and a second. Mr. Serino, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Please continue.
Okay, so next I have a motion coming from the Benefits and Insurance Committee, and that motion was to approve the one-year renewal for all the ancillary products for calendar year 2025 with the same plan design and rates as calendar year 2024. These products include basic life, volunteer life, accidental death and dismemberment, long-term disability, short-term disability, critical illness and accident, flexible spending accounts, and COBRA. And that was their motion, and it was a unanimous vote.
Any questions for the director? I declare Rule 10, and then you can still vote, from my understanding. Any other discussion? If not, we'll enter.
A quick question, Mr. Chair. So these are county only, and they're not connected to any state plans or anything along those lines?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to say, good job. It's nice not to have an increase in our insurance rate, so that's something we've had to deal with over the years, especially when we've lost some of our people to the school board's change.
Yeah, but this, what I will put in there, that the schools are with this. We have stayed together on these ancillaries. They have agreed to stay with us on these ancillaries. We get better rates. These are the old contracts. The basic life, long-term disability that has some county money in it. This would be their last year of the contract. We had a 3+1+1 on those contracts. So this would be the last year for 2025. Then we would have to go back out to bid for 2026. But the schools have agreed to stay with us on these ancillary products themselves. This is not the medical, dental, and vision. It's just the ancillary products.
We have a motion on this now. Have a motion, Mr. Johnson. Second. Any further discussion? I also will declare Rule 10. Mark, call roll on
Yep,
this.
me too.
Also,
Number 10.
Commissioner Sereno, Rule 10.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Shrino?
Yes.
Mr. Gooch? Yes. Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Ed. I believe you got another one, don't you?
No, I'm done.
Is that it?
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next up is item 7, general fund budget transfer for building maintenance. And Adam, rush out of one meeting to get over here, so.
Good evening, Commissioners.
This is Adam Dodd, our maintenance director.
So I have a couple of budget amendments that I want to present tonight. The first one, I'm requesting to transfer $20,000 from 335 to 399 to cover additional cost for four new facilities that came on last year: Rockville Public Health and Safety Building, Kittrell, and our newly acquired Kittrell Training Center and One Stop. These are for pest control, additional alarm monitoring, and custodial.
You've got a second item. Can we take these together, Michael? Do I hear any objection to that? We'll go ahead and take these together. Please continue for the next one.
Second budget amendment is to transfer $15,000 remaining from 167 personnel line item to 399 contracted services to cover some lawn care needs. We had an employee recently leave unexpectedly, and he went into business for himself. And this is just to get us caught back up this spring, so that we're not running behind trying to catch up.
You've heard the request, and I'll note these are all out of his current budget, so there'd be no increases. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second, Commissioner Sereno. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. P?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, item 8, an application for the TEAP grant.
Yes, Commissioners, I'm asking to seek approval to apply for a Tennessee Department of Environmental and Conservation, a Tire Environmental Act program, TEAP. And what this is it's a rubber-derived asphalt mix. A small percentage of that is added to a traditional mix. This rubber is used from Tennessee scrap tire recycle. It's an 80-20 match. I'm looking to repave the juvenile detention and the correctional work center, both the east and west parking lots. Those parking lots are approximately 28,000 square yards of asphalt paving. I have received a quote. That quote is for roughly $420,000. I'm requesting to apply for this grant. We spoke about this last week in property management. It looks like our cost will be roughly $84,000.
Adam, do you have any idea what it would cost to pave these two areas with regular asphalt?
The quotes are almost the same. The materials, there's not really a savings in either one, depending on which pavement company that you have come out. The prices were all within about $20,000.
Any other questions from the committee? This is a request to apply for the grant. This is not approval of the grant. You'd have to come back to us. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, if it were to be approved, we got the grant and moved forward, where was the 84 going to come out of? Or refresh my memory, I'm trying to.
I believe it was...
This time, it'd probably be unassigned fund balance at this time.
Okay.
If he had some money left over in his budget and it was around May or June, and this were to come back at that point, and we didn't think we were going to use it all, we could move something around at that time. But if we were doing it today, it'd probably be unassigned fund balance. But generally, every year as well, I believe Adam doesn't spend all of his budget either every year. So if we got closer to May and June, I may recommend that we do a transfer in his budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Chairman Harris, go ahead.
I've gotten some calls from department heads and some elected officials, and they were wanting to look at the budget upcoming, like painting and stuff like that. So my question to you is, are they calling you and you're giving them the bid as to what they should probably put in their budget, or is this something that comes out of your budget?
It's a mixture of the two. So what we look at, we look at the size, we look at the scope, we look at hours, man hours, labor, and currently the way we do it is if it exceeds a certain amount of money or a certain amount of hours, the mayor has requested that in particular department head or elected official advocate for that project in their budget. Now, the second part of your question is, yes, when a department comes and they have a renovation or they have something in a building improvement that they want me to look at, then I am responsible for getting those budget numbers prepared for each department.
Okay, you've heard the request. Well, entertain a motion one way or the other here.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for him to be able to apply for this grant. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on the item agenda is a general fund budget amendment for planning and engineering.
Thank you, Chairman P., members of the Budget and Finance Committee, and Mike Hughes, Rutherford County Engineer. Tonight, before you, I'm bringing a budget transfer for a new motor vehicle. We had an older vehicle that broke down and we can't find parts to replace it, so we'll have to buy a new one. So we want to increase line 718 motor vehicles in our planning and engineering budget by $30,000, and from that we're going to take $25,000 out of engineering services, line 321. And then from stormwater budget, we're going to, line 399, other contracted services, we're going to take $5,000. And we're going to buy a vehicle off the state bid list.
You of us saw that last night, Chairman Gooch.
Well, my question would be, so you're taking half of what's in engineering services, 321, what will suffer, or if anything will suffer because of that?
We still have 25,000 left. We haven't experienced anything what it was planned for. If we've had a traffic signal go down or a traffic signal cabinet go down, we have to hire a consultant. We haven't had to do that yet, so we're knock on wood.
Most of the
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Motion to approve if we need one.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hear none, call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrinion?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Next up is the Highway Fund Budget Amendment. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Greg Brooks. I'm the Rutherford County Road Superintendent, and I'm here tonight to present to you a budget amendment that passed the Road Board unanimously Monday morning. And this budget amendment is to purchase a new piece of machinery, as well as put in some additional money for the purchase of asphalt material to get us to the upcoming July 1st new budget cycle. There's also $50 in there for a longevity pay for an employee that had service at another county department that he's going to get credit for that we weren't aware of. So that's always kind of an aggregate that, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that also. So we'll be moving this money from our fund ending balance into our highway equipment line item and our asphalt line item, as well as the longevity number.
Questions?
This was approved by the board Monday. Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Second, Commissioner Gooch.
Quick question. Year over year, asphalt prices have gone up by how much?
Well, historically, since I've been there, they fluctuated probably at most 20% up and down, basically on crude oil. However, there was acquisition of our vendor a few years ago, and price dramatically went up when that happened. So we're hoping that levels off and stays so we can, move forward, budget, and understand, where we're at year to year. But it was more like a 40% increase at one time recently. So,
Is this due to price, or we're using a lot more of it?
the increase, I'm talking about a price increase, but we are using more in the last few years than we did prior. We have a little better skill set, and we have plenty of. We've had good luck with being able to, once our trucks arrive at the asphalt plant, they get loaded and get back out of there. So we haven't had a lot of competition waiting in line for the material. So we've gotten a lot done lately. We try to pave, and this is kind of off in the weeds from where we started, but we try to, during a paving season, we try to accomplish at least 45 miles of resurfacing. And if we do that, based on our road book, how many miles we have, we can kind of put things on a 15-year cycle. In the last couple of seasons, we've exceeded that. We've gotten like 70 miles. So that's why we are going to do a little bit. We don't want to run out of money and still have pretty weather to be taking care of this road maintenance.
That's fair. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Johnson.
This is a proactive action instead of a reactive, and the ending fund balance is still very healthy.
Well, that was my question. How healthy is it? What, do you know what's
I think
left?
we're probably, Michael, are we about 110% funded? I think we're,
It's not there, it's really close. I mean, it's within a, that's within a percent or two, without me having it right in front of me.
I think it's about 110%.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Hearing none, call roll.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
That's it.
Mary,
Thank you all.
too. Okay, next is Ambulance Service Fund Budget Transfer. Brian?
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman, Brian Gaither, EMS Director. The first transfer I'm asking is to decrease our paraprofessionals line item by $200,000 and add that into our part-time personnel line item. That's due to some vacancies we've had throughout the year, and we've had to fill those with part-time people, so that line item was being depleted. Want to do them both?
Can we do these both together?
I don't know of a second one that he has. That's the only one that I know that you had.
Under item 11, I think you just had one budget amendment.
12.
One budget amendment.
I think the next one is item 12, the pay
Yes,
grades.
yeah, that's a totally separate thing.
Okay. So we'll just look at this one item. Any questions for the director? Chairman Harris?
So we're having to pay this $200,000 because of vacancies. How many vacancies we have?
That's a $1 million question. We're averaging somewhere around 6 to 8. The last CASA station is coming on board in the next, sometime in the month of March. That's an additional 8 positions. We don't have those filled. The paramedic market is, you can pretty much go where you want to get a job. So we're all competing for a small group of paramedics. So we had an orientation class yesterday and today. There's 5 full-time people in that. We have another one starting next week. I know there's 5 or 6 people in there. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many full-time people there are, but I think after March, we should be fairly close. But some of these vacancies, they kind of overlap, but I would say throughout the year, we've probably averaged about 6 vacancies.
So are you planning, or you don't have to answer this, but are we to assume that some of these part-time will become full-time?
Well, that's our hope, and that's where we look to first, but some of those people, they already have full-time jobs elsewhere, so this is just their second job that they work.
Do you have a motion?
No, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch? Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Now we're going to item 12, ambulance service pay grade changes.
So the second one is, and I've been here in the past, we have 2 different levels of paramedics, a paramedic 1 and a paramedic 2. That paramedic 2 requires extra training. It's a critical care certification, it's a RSI certification, and an event certification. And we have 6 people that are either completed or very close to completing that, so they will qualify for that paramedic 2 position. That increase is about $2,000 per year per person, and we also have it's within the line item.
There was something I was going to point out. This is not an increase that wasn't planned on. Questions for the director? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve, Commissioner Sereno.
Second. Second.
Second for Commissioner Irving. Any further discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 13, general fund budget amendments and transfer for the drug court. Riggs.
Good evening, Lachelle Ricks, the Recovery Court Director. Our first budget amendment is for our mental health court. This budget amendment is to reallocate funds from the salaries and related taxes to the longevity, health insurance, and direct client services line. This has been approved by the state. We just had some extra funding due to a gap in staffing.
Any questions for the director? Not, this is basically a upgrade for our increase. Is that not right, Michael? Some increased money that we had gotten.
Are you looking at the mental health court one?
Yes.
This budget amendment's going to bring us in line with the actual budget on file with the state. And that's why you see a bunch of little small dollar amounts moved around. It actually ends up putting a tad bit of money back in our fund balance because we weren't sure with the carryover this fiscal year what exactly that amount was going to be. And so you'll notice that's why there's a slight increase on there. And everything else brings us in line with the budget on file with the state. But it's a grant we already have. It just brings us in compliance with what the state had.
Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion and a second, Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch? Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 14, please continue.
I have another budget amendment for our DYEP. That's our evening grant.
I think she had two more under that item,
do.
item 13.
Do you want me to do them both?
If we can, yes.
Okay. The DYEP grant also is a state grant that is, we're just reallocating money to align it with our county budget. And then I have a transfer. I need to move $2,000 out of our supply line and putting $1,000 into the gasoline and $1,000 into our dues and memberships.
Michael, is this basically the same thing we're correcting?
For the DYEP, it's basically the same thing. You'll notice this one actually decreases fund balance by $6,000. The other one increased it by $4,000. This also brings us in line with the carryover. This is really federal money passed through the state, so we don't, with the federal government's year end being September 30th, we're not always sure what their carryover is going to be. And so now that we've got everything fleshed out with them, this is updating us to match that budget.
You've heard the request.
So moved.
Motion, Chairman Gooch. Johnson, second. Any further discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Well, I'm trying to hurry us along with this long agenda, it looks like, so please continue.
We're requesting permission to apply for the SAMHSA grant to expand substance use disorder treatment capacity in our drug courts. We would like to spread it across all 3 or 4 of our drug courts. It is up to $400,000 a year for 5 years, and there is no match.
This is asking for permission to apply.
Yes.
So moved.
All right, having a motion,
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is a application for animal-friendly grant for PAWS.
Good evening, Michael Gregory, Director, Rutherford County PAWS. We're asking to apply for the Animal Friendly Grant with the state of Tennessee. They've not released the documents yet, but typically it's up to $5,000 per year, and it's to be used for low-cost spay-neuter services.
Michael, is that a match?
There is no county match.
Okay, you've heard the request.
Motion to
We
approve.
have a motion to approve. Commissioner Irving,
Second.
second. Chairman Gooch, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Next is a hazardous material emergency preparedness 2024 grant. Clark, welcome. All right.
Chairman, Commissioners. We have a approval letter from the Tennessee Emergency Management Office that we received approval for our hazardous material emergency preparedness grant. With this grant, we are prepared to send 8 hazmat techs, 2 from each jurisdiction, to Baltimore, Maryland for our International Hazardous Material Conference. With this, we are hoping to, or requesting to accept this letter of approval of our, to receive this money. And this will reflect on my next request, budget amendment.
This grant has got a matching fund, but he mentioned that will reflect on the next request.
Correct.
And, a quick reveal, I think this next request will cover this amount. Getting a nod there for that. Any other questions from the committee on this particular grant? If not, I will entertain a motion. I have a motion to approve the grant.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Any further discussion?
Could you, Mr. Chairman, could you clarify where the 4,200 is coming from? I just want to make sure I understand.
So this is a grant they previously got permission to apply for. The state did send them this award letter awarding this. And then the next item on item number 17 is we had some grant money from fiscal year 22. And so we're going to end up not having to use fund balance. And so we incorporated the matching funds of this grant that you see, but the award letter you see before you now, in conjunction with some other money that we're getting from the state so that we don't have to use unassigned fund balance.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner, excuse me, Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes, motion carries. Please continue.
Next on the list is a budget amendment that will reflect money received from a grant in 2022, and we are requesting to take that money and place them in appropriate line items such as 335, 499, 709, and 711. As you can see on the 24 HMP line item, that's where we will put the money that we receive for the other grant on the our match.
Part of the reason you're seeing this, this grant was approved in 2022. We're just now seeing some of these funds, and that's part of the problem there. But we're utilizing it, I think, to good use. Any questions from the committee on this? If not,
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Irving.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Any further discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Next item is a general fund budget amendments for the jail.
Good evening. I'm Steve Spence, the Deputy Chief at the Sheriff's Office. This budget amendment is to recognize SRO grant money and appropriate money to upgrade our fire alarm system and fire suppression system, asking to move $450,000 into our building improvements.
Quick explanation there is we receive money from the state for SROs, which we have already put our SROs in place, so we could actually use that money for other projects. This has been approved by Attorney Michael. You may expand on that, but.
We did reach out to the state when they did this SRO grant. We talked a little bit about it at budget time last year, where we did our budget at the same time the state was doing theirs, and so we weren't sure whether this was going to make it through the state appropriations or not. So we went, and we already have an SRO at every school. So we went ahead and did our budget without recognizing this revenue. And when the state did finally come down and say that they were going to send this money out on a per school basis based on a school number, we had already had an SRO in every school. And so we asked them, we only needed that money if we were allowed to supplement and supplant, which generally you are not. However, in this case, they allowed that because we already had, and several other jurisdictions have already had an SRO in every school. So in this particular case, you are allowed to supplement and supplant. And so this is us going ahead and recognizing a piece of that revenue that we didn't recognize in our original budget because we already had all of our SROs budgeted. And so we're just using that to offset this building improvement so that we don't have to do two budget amendments and put money in fund balance and take it right back out. So kind of killing two birds with one stone here.
Mr. Chairman, am I reading this right? That means there's still 30, or 3.2 roughly, 3.025 or so in this SRO grant?
That's correct.
And that's usable for?
We recognize that revenue. If the sheriff's office does not need it for something between now and the end of the year, it will be a part of the cleanup budget amendment that you see in June when we shore up our revenues, revenue estimates between now and then. The only reason we didn't want to go ahead and recognize the full amount is there's a couple of capital needs that the sheriff's office may need between now and then. If we would have recognized the full thing tonight, you would have seen that go into unassigned fund balance, and then if they would have needed something in the next 3 months, we would have taken it right back out of unassigned fund balance. But either way, we have gotten that cash. The $3.675 million has come in.
From what I'm hearing, in other words, there's 3.025 roughly, and then there's a couple other additional needs that are being considered.
Yes.
There could be, yes, maintenance needs and stuff like that. And so we could have went ahead and recognized the entire thing tonight, but the offsetting budget entry would have been to increase unassigned fund balance tonight because all they needed tonight was the $450 for the fire system.
Got it. Thank you.
Mark, we need a motion on this, don't we?
Yes.
Heard the request. I will entertain a motion. Piercy?
Second.
Irving? Any further discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Mr. Gooch?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. P?
Yes, motion carries. Now, the next three also grants, and I think you were asking to apply for 3 different grants.
Yeah, there's 2 different grants, yes, sir. The first one we're requesting to apply for the Tennessee Highway Safety Office and teen grant. The Tennessee Highway's office grant pays for the overtime and equipment for deputies working saturation and traffic enforcements. We're requesting $150,000 there. The teen grant pays for overtime and equipment for deputies working teen driving education. We're requesting $20,000. We apply for this grant every year. It runs from October to September. It's no match.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Steve, is that item 19 and 20 you're taking? Did you just read 19 and 20?
Yes, yes.
Everybody covered that, so our motion will be to both of these requests for the grant.
This is for 19 and 20?
Yes, 19 and 20, the Police Traffic Services Grant and the Teen Driver Safety Grant. Any further discussion?
Second.
Made those motions. Irving and was it Piercy?
Piercy, okay.
Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 21.
We're requesting to apply for the financial year 25 Community Projects Funding Grant through congressional funding. This is a one-year no-match grant with the option to extension of an additional 3 years. If approved, the funding will not be available until October of 25. We're requesting $700,000. We're going to use the funds to buy a rapid DNA instrument.
Our match to this.
No match.
Quick question. You just said there was a 3-year.
The grant's for 1 year, but after the 1 year, you can extend it for 3 years. We would come back and
Total of 700 or
$700,000.
2.1 million?
700,000 for the first year.
Okay, and then is there a different amount for the second? Or is that
If we decide to extend for the next 3 years, we would come back before the committees and request that part after the first year.
But it would be for the same amount again. It would be an additional 700.
700 plus 700 plus 700 if we chose to?
Yes, sir.
You've heard the request. Commissioner Piercy moves for approval.
Second.
Second, Mr. Irving. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next is item 22, Regional Transport Authority Contract. Michael, you want to cover that one?
So this is the annual contract that we approve. This will be for FY25. I believe the dollar amount is the same as prior years, and this would be for the Regional Transportation Authority between us and Rutherford, or between them and us and Rutherford County.
Mentioned this is something we've been ongoing.
Can you explain? I don't understand this one. So, can you explain this to me a little bit? Because I guess we're like getting billed $49,000 a year. Did I read that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or entertain a motion?
I so move.
Mr. Sereno moves for approval. I need a second. Right. Have a motion and a second to approve the Regional Transport Authority contract, which has been for quite a few years. Any other discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Michael, these might take a few minutes more, but go ahead.
So number 23 and 24, I'm going to talk about together. Number 23 is for presentation only. So a vote is not required for number 23, but I'm going to talk about it in conjunction with item number 24. So last month, this body and the commission approved to borrow money for the construction of the Beatty Elementary for the school system. And if y'all remember, the school system was putting up $30 million out of their fund balance. They had previously put up a few $1 million for some architectural design and some site work on top of that $30 million. And we were going to borrow a little over $25 million to fund the remaining portion of the Beatty Elementary. However, also at this time, we're wanting to do a refunding from a bond from 2014. So the first item that you see, number 23, is required that when we want to do a refunding, we have to submit documentation to the state comptroller's office, and we have done so, and they send back a letter saying that we're in compliance with that, and that's what item number 23 is. That and the plan we submitted to them is attached on your iPads, and if you'll notice, they're saying the benefit of that, their estimated net present value savings are approximately $683,000 for the refunding. We think we could save a little bit. The actual realized savings would be between $700,000 and $800,000. So we feel like it's a no-brainer to go ahead and do that refunding and save that money. And then that brings us to item number 24, which is the resolution for general obligation bonds. And so the second item attached for that item number 24 is going to be the resolution for the general obligation bonds. You'll notice that's $49 million. That's the $30 million that we have to borrow for the elementary school, plus the $18.5 million of the refunding. So the new money piece is only the $30 million for the elementary school. And I'm using that round number because that additional approximately $5 million is what we have to share with Murfreesboro City Schools based on our sharing rate. And we just use nice round whole numbers when we add those together. We will actually borrow the exact amount that we need, but also based on the way interest rates are right now, it is very highly likely that we will get a premium. Now, the other thing that is different about this borrowing than we have done in the past is the refunding. Because there's 10 years left on that refunding, we would turn around and issue a 10-year bond for that refunding. However, when we've started looking at our cash flow and interest rates, I'm proposing that we do a 10-year GO bond for the elementary school as well, so that it's one funding together. So it'll be one 10-year GO bond for approximately $49 million. Now, the reason for that is we think over the life of that bond versus doing a 20-year for their $30 million elementary school, that we could save in principal and interest costs approximately $6 to $8 million, depending on interest rates. And we feel that we have the cash flow and the timing to do that is right in conjunction with this refunding. Now, also in this 31-page resolution, it does give us the option to pivot on the date of the sale if interest rates, something were to go awry that is unforeseen, an act of God event that we were not anticipate. It does allow us the authority to pivot to a 20-year, or we could always pull the sale of the bonds, which is always an option for us. But the schedule you see in front of you tonight would be for a 10-year new money for $30 million for the elementary school, plus the refunding of approximately $18.5 million of the remaining bond from 2014 that is now callable, which allows us to issue a tax-exempt GO bond for that. In the past, we have done refundings that are taxable because they were not within 90 days of the call option. This one is. I know that was a lot. Any questions?
Recognize Commissioner Irving.
Thank you. What's the average length of our outstanding debt now?
Almost everything we issued is 20-year bonds, but I'd have to see, let me pull up the debt schedule and I can tell you what the average, get close to the average length.
I mean, are we pulling it down by going to 10, basically, is what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We normally issue 20 years. This would also...
But how long are the ones that are currently outstanding still out?
Let me pull...
I'm trying to figure out kind of the average we have out there now, and if we're pulling down the average.
So we are pulling down the average a tad. This would set us up to within 8 to 10 years, our debt service could drop considerably and try to free up some debt capacity, just because we're trying to not just look a year or 2 years out from the budget. I really want us to look 5, 10, or 15 years out based on the amount of capital needs that not just the school system, but the county is also going to require. So it is going to pull us down a little bit, but there would be a significant amount of bonds paid off in the next 10 years if we do also do this within 10 years. And I can give you that exact number. If you'll give me 1 second, I can tell you the number of debt issuances that'll be paid off within that 10-year period.
That'd be great.
Not including this deal before you tonight would be 7 additional borrowings that would be paid off within the next 10 years. And we think our annual debt service payments over the next 10 years would really drop by almost $10 million, which would free up quite a bit of capacity for us, is the hope. Trying to free up that capacity. And then if you went out to 11 years from now, you're going to have another one that would also be paid off. So you could add 8 to that list, 8 borrowings that would be paid off if you went out to 11 years.
So So going to 10 years basically still gives us an adequate cushion with respect to our debt service payments. And what's the effect of this change on, the last time we talked about a $40 million roughly borrowing capacity, does that open us up a little bit, or does that tighten it down a little bit? I'm trying to get a sense for
I actually think over the next 10 years it opens us up. It may tighten us down. It depends on the interest rates.
Right.
It does not impact the ability to go borrow. We still think we could afford to borrow the approximately $40 million for the Laverne High School addition that the schools have requested, or have that capacity if there was something else out there. Also, based on interest rates, we think that it actually could free up some even additional capacity in the next 5 years. So it pretty much holds us status quo. It adds about an additional $1 million to the principal and interest payment if we shift down to this 10-year, but we also shift from a 3.5% interest rate down to 2.5%.
Right.
We save almost an entire percent.
So there's a trade-off there, for sure.
There is, and so, but if we were to borrow this on a 20-year based on current interest rates, we'd borrow $30 million to spend approximately $44 to $45 million over the life of 20 years. And if we borrow on a 10-year, we'd spend close to $34 million. So then you have to take a little bit of opportunity cost in there for the present value of the extra $1 million per year principal payments over 10 years. But also the trajectory that I see over the next 10 years, I can't imagine we would hold interest rates at 5.25 or 5.5. If they do, I still think we come out on top. The savings would be maybe a little less, but I still think we'd have savings based on our current model.
Okay, so so it helps us out, so it tightens a little bit, and then it starts to loosen up. And then on that age of 10 years out, when we start freeing up some debt service and start paying a few things off, does that happen? Within what time period does that start to occur? In other words, are we freeing up adequate dollars? Because here's what I'm trying to figure out, because the schools have huge asks out there. Okay, who knows? Is kind of where we are, financially. Okay, and so I'm trying to get a sense for what does this start to do to free up debt service for some of those needs? Do things happen in a cliff? In other words, you get out couple years, 2 or 3 years, and it starts to be a cliff where we have significantly more capacity? Or is it something that occurs over a period of time where 6 years out we're pretty good shape for additional capacity? I'm trying to get a read on if you have a sense.
Yeah, I do. Let me pull up this other model that I've got, and I'll be able to kind of. So I'm going to give you kind of a rough number here. Of course, this is a model and subject to change based on interest rates. So next year, approximately our debt service is in the range of $63 to $65 million total in principal and interest. And then every year now it starts to knock off big chunks. So once we get to over the next 5 years, you knock off you would go down to 55 million, 54 to 55 million.
Over how many years? I'm sorry.
Over the next 5 to 6 years based on the interest rates.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a cliff. I mean, we have a steady decline if we can do this. And I think the goal was to I read you those 7 or 8 debts that come off over the next 9 to 11 years. The goal was to also take advantage of the current savings in the interim, but also really long-term free up that capacity so that because we have a healthy fund balance in there, that if we wrote a little bit of that healthy fund balance in the interim, that hopefully when the schools have a large ask, let's say in 5 years for a new high school or something like that, that the goal would be to try to have to not raise taxes or to put as least amount of additional tax revenue in there as we would have to, that hopefully we could free up enough capacity when I think their plan had 2 high schools over the next 5 to 6 years. I think they had one in the North End and one, I'm looking at the schools, and then one out in potential Walter Hill, and then some middle school requests also over the next 5 to 6 years. And so really trying to free up that long-term capacity.
Well, that's kind of where I'm headed with trying to sort out kind of the current debt service capacity and how does that lay out over the next few years vis-à-vis paying off, some of the debt and matching up the requests along with the needs to the extent we can. Start anticipating some of this, if possible.
So based on the model too, of course, models can always have errors, and I'm taking assumptions, assumptions all the time. We definitely still have the capacity that we had, the 40 to 45 to 35 in that range. We definitely have that capacity. I don't think that may tighten on the first year, but then the capacity really on year 6 starts to really open up based on this model, with no additional tax increases into the fund is kind of what we're trying to
Right, good goal.
facilitate.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Michael.
Any further discussion? Any other questions? There's a lot to wrap around here, but again, I want to repeat that this is both item 23 and 24. And again, 23 was just basically for our information. We're required by the Comptroller's office to give this information when we refinance to all the commissioners. It'll be presented at the full commission next Thursday also. My personal opinion on what Michael is proposing here and going to a 10-year bond issuance, I think it's the right direction. I think, Trey, you probably remember Paul and Jeff, when we were discussing this in the past, we actually had to look at a 30-year bond issuance, and we were able to stay with 20, which has greatly reduced the amount of money we've had to pay. And of course, you pay a home mortgage 20-year versus 10, you can realize the savings there. I would advocate that we do this. Having said that, any other discussion from the committee? If not, I will entertain a motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Johnson, second, Chairman Harris. Any further discussion or questions? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 25, CDBG-CV grant agreements with the nonprofits. It's going to be Michael again.
So if y'all remember a while back, this body and the commission approved a pass-through grant, CDBG grant, a pass-through grant through us to some nonprofits. We did advertise and allow nonprofits to apply. The Journey Home and Nourish Food Bank both applied for those grants. The Journey Home is for $18,000, and Nourish Food Bank is going to be for $103,000. That is at no cost to us. We're strictly a pass-through. These are the two sub-recipient agreements with each of those entities.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Irving?
Second.
Commissioner Sereno seconds. Any further discussion? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Srinial?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 26, solid waste fund budget transfer. Wagner was out on business, and so Matt's here with us tonight.
Yeah, Bishop sends his apologies. Excuse me, he couldn't be with us tonight. My name is Matt Davis. I'm his assistant director and here to talk about this budget amendment. Basically, we're asking to reduce our communications line by $3,800 and add that to an evaluation and testing line, the same amount. And this would pay for disc assessment training for leadership. Was recommended by the HR department. The mayor's aware of it and also in agreement that we should do this. It basically is taking a look at our leadership team in the department and seeing how we can serve our citizens a little bit better. We've had some attrition recently that we want to look into and see if we can turn around.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. A couple of us saw this last night at Public Works. Any other questions on this training request? Call roll, Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Tell Bishop you did a good job. Item 27, Rutherford Opioid Board BA.
So yesterday, the Rutherford County Opioid Board Committee did approve some new allocations. One of those was to Greenhouse, one of those was to Bethesda House Ministries, one of them was to our sheriff's office, and another was for an award contest for a billboard design. And the total amount of all that was $68,720. The one thing that we need to clarify, we talked about at Opioid Board, and I believe Chairman Harris can also speak to this, is that committee wanted to give an award for a billboard design contest of $500, but in conjunction with the county attorney, we think it's best, and based on the allowability, to give that as a scholarship award. We already do that now for some county, send a few county scholarship money to institutions, and so that award would be sent directly to the institution that that individual would attend. That way that money is not going directly to that individual. It protects the county and then makes it an allowable expenditure for us. Did I get all that right, Chairman Harris?
Yes, that's fine. After dealing with lawyers, we're unable to give a $500 award, so it will be in the form of a scholarship. I also want to challenge our school, Kay, if she would talk with Dr. Sullivan and get some of our high school students, art classes in particular, to be involved in this. We'd like them to be a big part of this, as well as MTSU. So if this is something that is good, it's something we're going to really pursue and do more of, but we want to see where this goes. And this is a very important, this is going to be the billboard that's going to be put up all around the county. So this is really a big thing for us, and we hope that we can get participation out of our school system and our college. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Not, we'll entertain a motion.
If this money is sent to the institution and the child happens to not be able to attend, what happens to that money?
Generally, we send it on a reimbursement basis, or we get a bill directly from that school that they've already started attendance, or we don't send it generally well ahead of time. We generally send it right around the deadline that it's to go. The county currently already does, I believe it's 2 scholarships, and I believe it's for county employees. But they do have to fill out some paperwork and sign some statements saying that they're going to attend, and statements like that. I know Nick and Sonia have a form that they sign. But I guess there is always that risk that we have to go after that money and get that money back. There could be a risk there.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second, Commissioner Serino. Any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 28, Rutherford Opioid Board funding request for probational services counselor and COPS grant matching funds for fiscal year 2024-25. It's something I want to mention. This money is for matching grant amount. This is not to pay for those positions in full. It's for the grant amount, and that was approved by the Opioid Board in the past. This is for the coming year, and the reason we went ahead and did that at the Opioid Board yesterday is because this can go ahead and be baked into our oncoming budget for the coming year and save us some time, since we're fixing to start in on our new budgets shortly. This will be one more item we won't have to go back and forth on. Michael, you got anything else you want to add to that?
Yes, one of the reasons that you don't have anything on your iPads for you tonight is this goes ahead and gives me some direction from both the Opioid Committee, from budget, and then the commission, that as we build the budget for FY25, it allows me to go ahead and build this in and save some work on the back end on changing things on the commission floor as that can sometimes be a little more time consuming. It's a lot easier administratively to do this on the front end. And so that's kind of why we went ahead and did it this month.
We didn't want to see this in June because we'd had to go back and forth between the board committee and back to us.
So we don't have an amount right now?
So currently, the COPS grant, I believe it was 101,000 that was approved for the matching portion. However, those positions have not been filled. So if they're not filled, we won't spend that money. So it'd be right around $100,000 for the matching portion of the 6 COPS grant positions. I believe it's 5 deputies and 1 detective is the positions that are a part of that. And then the probation counselor is a grant-funded position that the opioid board provided some grant funds for, and that position has been successful. So it allows us to go ahead and keep that as an opioid grant-funded position into next year's budget. And I can look up what that individual, that's in the $70,000 range off the top of my head, but I can look up the individual if you need me to look up that amount.
Mr. Irving, question?
So are we, you're asking for permission to set this up or somehow in the budget, or actually approve these amounts? Because we don't have any.
So this is going ahead and giving me some direction that the opioid board intends to fund these with opioid funds. And so I will build this into FY25's budget. If I didn't go ahead and build it, it would have to go sometime in May or June, and we'd have to change it last minute in June. If you remember last year, we added some opioid money I think we added it right at the end in June. I believe we made a change right before it was on June 26th. We approved the budget last year, and I believe we made a change that weekend because MTSU's agreement was approved as that program was coming alive last year. And it just creates a lot of changes last minute for us as we're trying to get the paperwork out to y'all to vote on. So it just makes it administratively easier. We will talk about these amounts in particular during the budget process. When each department comes up and gives their budget presentation, we can talk about those amounts. And obviously, y'all could change those at any time. But I needed some administrative direction on where the opioid committee wanted me to go and some direction. That way, as we write the appropriations resolutions and things like that, we're not changing them on the fly last minute.
So you're looking for a motion to approve giving Michael the direction to go ahead and start building this into the next budget?
Well, yes, basically this is an approval.
I'll make that motion. If that's what it is, I'll make that motion, but.
Okay, I think we can accept it that way. Mark, you agree with that? I will accept that as the motion. Is there a second? And a second. One thing I want to mention, this grant, particularly the COPS grant, has already been approved by the full commission. Now, if the opioid board had not done this, you'd be looking at taking this out of fund balance. So what we're doing is we're saying the opioid board is going to put this money in for the coming budget year, so we don't have to worry about pulling it out of fund balance. That's what basically we're doing here.
I'll be glad to amend my motion to reflect what you just said.
Mark, can you? All right. And, okay, we have a motion and a second on this, and any other discussion? Hearing none, call roll. Mark.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes, motion carries, and thank you all. And I want to send a thank you back to the opioid board for doing this for us. So, Chairman Harris, thank you. Any other business before us? Any shout outs? Oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. We are adjourned.